It's a great idea, it's innovation. And I think this new idea, the new bracket we have here is one of the better ideas I've had, best ideas I should say, and I'll let my father show you what we've got.
Well, it's nice to be introduced by your son, isn't it? A real thrill. Greetings to all of our friends in Adelaide, from all of us here at the Orthodontic Center in snowy Indiana. It's cold here today. I'd hoped to be with you for your 19th Biennial Congress, but in case I don't make it, we prepared this little presentation on the new Plus bracket. I've been standing up here for probably 40 years now. We've talked about a lot of things since the early 60s. We've gone through, of course, we're going to talk about brackets today. Of course, I guess the first really good bracket we had here at TP was called the 256. Those of you in Australia and UK know that we really had a good bracket there. Of course, it was a stamped bracket, easy to make, inexpensive. But we had some unique features with it. That's what I really cut my teeth on learning orthodontics, would be the beg technique, of course. But then in '86, when the tip-edge bracket came along, we never looked back. You don't ever want to put another 256 on. You don't want to play with lock pins anymore. We became edgewise orthodontists. Before that, we were the beg guys, and then there's the edgewise guys. And with the tip-edge, I felt like I was an edgewise guy. But I think we've still got the beg image sort of hanging on us like an albatross, perhaps. But since '86, of course, that's all we've used, and it was very easy, relatively easy, to convert a beg orthodontist from 256 to the tip-edge. They didn't all go for it. As you know, some of you, we still sell a lot of 256 brackets around the world. But I think if you looked at the age of those, the orthodontists that are buying those, they're about my age. You know, you haven't got much future there. The future, I'm going to talk about plus brackets. I'm going to try not to say tip-edge plus, I'm going to try to say plus. Because that's what I think we have to think. This is not, now you're not going to have any problem selling the plus bracket to a tip-edge orthodontist. It's like teaching a caveman to strike a match. Yeah. It's so obvious once you see it. So I don't think you'll have any problem. You may have a little resistance because the cost is more, but there's a savings in sidewinders, obviously. And but there's more savings than that, and when I get in the program, I'll show you. I mean, it's just tremendous benefits. The advantages the plus bracket has over a tip-edge bracket. Now, I'm talking with Parkhouse about this. Of course, Dr. Parkhouse's new book is out, Tip-Edge Orthodontics. He put a little blurb in the back about the plus bracket is perhaps the future. When he wrote the book, he had not had the opportunity to treat any patients. He's an honest guy, so he couldn't say whether it was good or bad because he hadn't really tried. But he did leave the door open and did a nice little ending there that this is perhaps the future. He's been here now and he's excited because he's seen what we can do. I mean, it's hard to believe that we can now do differential tooth movement. I'm not going to call it beg tooth movement. It's differential tooth movement with an edgewise bracket without any need for springs, auxiliaries. For the past 10 or 15 years, Dr. Parkhouse has always said, you know, the biggest problem we've got are the auxiliaries. And I'd say, no, Richard, that's a big advantage we have are the auxiliaries, because with the auxiliaries we can finish our cases with heavy rectangular wires and the patient's comfortable. And there's no inadvertent torquing of incorrect teeth, and the springs are active right up to the end. Well, now we have that without the springs. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, really. But why didn't we think of it before? That's another question. Well, you know, these things, it has to build in your mind, and then you're kind of programmed, and all of a sudden, whammo, the idea comes. Dr. Engel asked him where he got his ideas. He said they came out of the black. Well, I think that's where they do come from. Adam said some of you have not even seen a plus bracket. Is anybody here that hasn't seen one? You're going to be so surprised. You've all seen the tip-edge bracket. And before I get into the slideshow here, now I mentioned you're not going to have any difficulty interesting tip-edge orthodontists in this. But what our challenge is and what the goal is to interest the, what we call straight wire orthodontist. Remember, tip-edge is straight wire. Tip-edge is a pre-adjusted bracket. Tip-edge is a pre-adjusted edgewise bracket. I mean, it looks just like what they've been handling. But it's plus. So, to the tip-edge guy, it's plus because it's got this horizontal slot and he doesn't have to use any individual springs. To a straight wire orthodontist, it's plus. He has that advantage also. But I think we have to start promoting the fact that the plus bracket is pre-adjusted from start to finish. Now all these other pre-adjusted brackets, all these prescriptions, what do they have to do with? Finish. Right? It helps them park the car in the garage in a certain spot. Of course, it doesn't let the wheels go around, so they got to use high power. They got to bulldoze their cars and teeth into the proper spots as prescribed. But with the plus bracket, we are pre-adjusted from start to finish. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have the corners cut out, so the tooth is pre-adjusted to move in the beginning. And it only lets the tooth move in the right direction. I mean, what a bonus that is. You know, orthodontists put the conventional slots on all the teeth. They might as well put buccal tubes on every tooth, because the edgewise slot, conventional, prevents the tooth from moving. And so they've been fighting that for 80 years, orthodontists. They fight it. How do they fight it? They fight it with headgear. They fight it with bite plates, lip bumpers, surgery, palatal expansion. See, those are things that I never used. No headgear, no bite plates. Isn't that amazing? And all that plaster's out on the, I was so happy that one of you was looking at the models. It's all out there. All we have to do is get the straight wire guys to open their eyes. Now, we had a course a few weeks ago, and Adam just told me at lunch there was one of these straight wire orthodontists from Ohio, sat here for 2.5 days, and the light bulb went on in his head, or over his head, or wherever they go on. And of course, Dr. Parkerhouse here was to help fire him up, because he's a real motivator. And this guy saw the light. The big advantage that the arch wire slot actually increases in size and decreases in size. Now you tell an orthodontist that, and they can't follow you. They don't understand most of it. And I had somebody at St. Louis I was teaching yesterday, an instructor, and he didn't understand how it worked. I explained it, and he just went back to what he was doing. They don't want to know. And so the plus bracket is a pre-adjusted bracket from start to finish. That's what we've got to offer the straight wire people. Just by putting the brackets on, each tooth is programmed to move in the correct direction. And if the patient wears the rubber bands backwards, as some do, it'll resist it. It'll prevent the teeth from going wrong. I mean, what a plus that is for the orthodontist. Isn't that amazing? It's like trying to work with a computer and not knowing how to program it. That's like me. I don't know, I'm just learning. But I understand programming brackets, and I understand the advantages. So we'll just run through this, hopefully. There it is. See the top. Programmable treatment from start to finish. I think that's what we have to work on to interest the straight wire orthodontist. And make them ask, what do you mean from the start? And now you can tell them. And we have this little tagline, the next direction is straight wire. It's what this is. There's the bracket, upper right canine. Now you see, of course you can see in the distal surface here, this is our opening. Of course we'll be threading the wires what we call the uprighting wires, threaded usually from the meson. Of course, the other side has an opening just like that. And of course, in order to put the tunnel, we call it the deep tunnel, put that in the bracket, we had to widen both wings. Remember with the tip edge bracket, our wings were like, they were propeller shaped. Remember? This is another advantage for those that have been using straight wire. It's difficult to pick up a tip edge bracket because the wing tips are not opposite each other like this and the bracket flips. So now you can come in and you can get a hold of this bracket on the wing tips and it won't flip for bonding. Just a 3/4 view. So in talking with Richard Parkhouse, I said, the nomenclature from now on, as far as I'm concerned, is we got the tip edge arch wire slot, not the bracket. The slot is the tip edge part, and the bracket's the plus part. This shows you the lingual view, of course. It shows still have the vertical slot, as we call it. So for terminology, differentiate, this is the deep tunnel, horizontal tunnel. Notice they cross one another, so it's not possible to put a spring in and an uprighting wire. You have to make a decision. Can't do both at the same time. Now if anybody's got a question as we go, I'll try to answer it. This is the uprighting wire, nickel titanium. Start out usually with 12 thousandths nickel titanium. Depends, of course, on the degree of tipping. Depends upon whether it was an extraction case or non-extraction. But that's easily thread through. Of course, we don't show the base of the bracket here. We don't have the arch wire behind. We don't have the ligature. But it all goes together. And to go along with this plus bracket, we have the new non-convertible low-profile tip-edge tubes, we call them. Of course, the circle means the upper, this means the lower. These are the same dimensions as we've worked with over the years, 36 thousandths round, 22 by 28 rectangular. This does have the easy out feature, which helps us get the rectangular wires out, as is sometimes needed, or just to loosen it up a little bit during stage 3. Now we've just come out with these bondable, I call them second molar tubes, low profile, lowest profile on the market. And just for those who want to get a hold of a second molar, with the differential straight arch technique, that's what I've been calling it for 15 years, never did catch on. But anyway, we normally don't have to bond or band the second molars with this technique because we don't need second molars for anchorage. Why not? It's the tip edge arch wire slot that makes this all possible. We use low forces.
I have a question, Dr. B.
Yes?
So you said in the past you didn't need the second molars, but in this system you
No.
do? Oh.
No. It's the same need. The need has not changed with plus over tip edge or over 256. It's just always there will be an occasion where a second molar will come in tipped, rotated, need some help. So in the past we've had to put bands on or bond something on. This would just be TP's answer to that. And you know, you can use it with the plus system or you can use it with any system. St. Louis teaching yesterday, and one of the students, near the end of treatment, was an extraction case, and I think you're all familiar with treatment a little bit to know, at least in this differentials movement. We let the teeth all tip, first 2 stages, and then the 3rd stage, we want to parallel the roots. Well, this student, his bicuspids weren't moving. And what he'd done is, you see how that little arrow points? So up till now, this is all we've had to help the orthodontist identify what a bracket. This would be called a counterclockwise bracket. It tips this way. It's very hard to see, and he got it on backwards. So that interfered with treatment right up to the end. So with the plus brackets, we've added little points on the bases, which helps identify which way to put the brackets on, right? It's just a little, that's another plus, isn't it? Another plus.
Only on the bicuspid?
Yes, good question. Why? Why only on the bicuspids? Because the bicuspids are the only teeth that you have to think, and you have to make a decision which way you want the tooth to go. The centrals, the laterals, and cuspids all tip distally. And we put these little ID marks on the distal corners, and that helps us too. But since these can go either way, we got the circle in the center, and we've got the arrow, too small, now we've got the points. So it's easy to put them on correctly. It would have been easier for me to spot this in the patient's mouth yesterday. If he'd had these points, I could have seen it easier. Okay, now you see these are the deep tunnels. Now I haven't shown the vertical slots. He just would be a little busy in there, so we left them out. So this is like the middle of treatment, treating a patient. Of course, this is something that the straight wire people, they've got to learn a lot to do all this. But anyway, half of our treatment is stage 3 with this moving teeth. So like 9 months, you get to this point, and then like Dr. Parkow says, when he gets to this point and he puts his patients together, he has his nurse bring another one in off the waiting list because he is really done working. This is another big plus. You got him coming out. This is a plus for the orthodontist. In economics, his time, money. That's why this bracket, even though it may cost a little more, it's making money for him. Gives him time to play golf or treat more patients. Now comes the fun part. Look at that, there it goes. Isn't that neat? Damn, who wouldn't want to do that? Let's do it again. Let's do it on the top. So now we've got these. These are preformed. I'll show you a occlusal view of this before. Nickel titanium. We take a preformed arch wire and we cut the length properly so that when we thread it in, it ends just inside the tooth. Wham! What's that? That is stability. That's peace of mind for the orthodontist. That is a big arch wire. That's a 22 by 28 arch wire. I mean, that'll raise the eyebrows of the straight wire guys. That's scaring them to death. Because if they put a wire like that in their patients' brackets, there's the slightest bit tip or torque. Man, the eyeballs pop out, the brackets fly off, it's pain. It's wild. It doesn't happen to us because our slots have opened up. It's revolutionary as the wheel, isn't it, Laura?
Yes.
It is. Okay, let's have some fun on top. Let's stabilize everything up there too. Put that in. And we can bend the ends, you see, in the back. That's just to keep all the spaces closed. And this would indicate this is a class 2 patient. So this patient may want to wear a class 2 elastic just at night during this period of time. You send the patient away, and like Dr. Parkhouse would say, you really don't have to see the patient for about 9 months. You don't have to worry about anything over uprighting. You don't have to worry that your assistant has put the wrong spring in or the right spring backwards. But it happens, and that can slow up treatment. It can happen. Now it's impossible to make a mistake. Let's ask some questions. Come on. Can't be this good, can it?
I have a question for you. The springs, they've always been like you said, one of the greatest advantages of the tip-edge bracket. I mean,
The springs?
Yeah, the springs.
The ability to use
They
the
look
auxiliaries, right.
Instead of some people looking negatively. So by the same token here, now the uprighting springs are gone and the nickel titanium wire is doing the job.
Yes.
Could you comment on the efficiency? Are we like 1-to-1, or is this going to be a little slower or faster? Or do we know enough?
Yeah. Did you hear Diva's question? He's wondering that maybe we don't have the springs, but maybe we don't have the power, and so maybe it's going to be slower. Now, that's a good question, Diva, and that's when you're talking to a tip-edge man. That's something that will whiz through his mind. And that's what we thought. We've been testing these brackets for like a couple of years. That's the first thing we're looking for is the rate of uprighting, rate of torque. And we find it's the same, and we think it's even faster.
Is it like 012?
Well, we're starting with a 12. Now, Lilia, this is like 3 or 4 months later. Get me back on my program here. If you notice, these teeth have upright a little bit. They're not so tippy now. They've been uprighting for 3 or 4 months from this 12,000 wire. So then you take out the 12,000, so you put in a 16, 18, which gives you, you're getting more power there, right? And then you finish with that. So we've never had to change nickel titanium wires but just once. And then
Dr. P, why did you not take the wire straight through the arch wire slot at the, on the molars?
Because this is the slot that's full of the edgewise wire.
Mm-hmm.
This is the empty tube. See, so we go through the empty one.
All right, okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
All right,
okay, thanks.
Dr. Pitt,
Yep.
are you always trying to get to the 018 9 or sometimes you're only going to get to 016?
Dr. Chris treated one just with a 14.
Okay.
Because he could get a 14 in, it wasn't that tippy, and then it seemed to work out all right, and he took them off. But I think if we're going to talk to someone, we have to, you know, we can't overdo this, oversell it. We have to at least tell them they're going to have upsize ones.
Upsize one, okay.
Yeah, I would think you'd have to expect to do that. Right.
Dr. P,
Yep.
how difficult is to put this wire into the slot that is not uprighted? I mean, it's not.
Not difficult. It's very easy. There's a man who can tell you.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
He's been on the other end of it.
Right. And sitting in the chair, you think that, oh my goodness, this is going to be painful, but he slipped it right through there.
Yeah. You let him go again for another 3 or 4 months, 5, whatever you think it takes. Now, we're not only uprighting teeth mesodistally, but we are torquing teeth. I mean, that is really tough to get these edgewise guys to understand that. You know, as these teeth upright mesodistally, the slot closes down on the top and bottom of the edgewise wire. So if your upper teeth are leaning in a little bit, it torques it, does it automatically. Can't do it too much because you've got the prescriptions in the bracket base. If you want a little more, you can adjust the arch wire too. So then then they come back, say, 3 or 4 months later, and they look like this.
Are you going to use earrings anyway, or just the hook?
Oh. One time, accidentally, we sent a patient away without the elastomeric ligature on one arch or the other. And what do you think it looked like 3 or 4 months later? Did you say nothing? Yeah. You don't need elastomeric ligatures. Another plus, isn't it? How would Dr. Damon like that? Well, we can't really say that. We can't say that absolutely because you need the elastomeric ligatures for your in and out compensation.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So you would lose that, but we didn't lose arch wire engagement. The teeth still uprighted and they still torque without the ligatures. So that's another plus. You may not need ligatures. Think of the money you'll save on ligatures. Especially the super slick ones, right, Lee?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we let the patient go 4 or 5 months and they come back. We'll just take off the arch wires. Oh no, that's when they come back. Take the arch wires out. Now this is deep stuff now I'm getting into now. You notice the arch wire is still flexed in the centrals. It hasn't straightened out. Anybody know why? Got bent maybe? Because in order to ensure we get torque in these teeth, to ensure that we always have pressure, like with a sidewinder, never stops, it never relaxes, does it? It never can get to its final position. We have cut or cast the slots in the centrals and laterals off center. You see that? They're in backwards. So these wires are always flexed. Even though the bracket closes down bang on the arch wire, the nickel titanium wire is still pressing.
Can you say that again, please?
No, I wouldn't do that again. I don't think I'd get it straight to say. No, that's a good question because you're not the only one that doesn't understand it. You're just the only one who's got enough guts to ask the question. No, let's look at this. Let's look at this one. Can you see that horizontal tunnel is parallel with the top of the bracket wings?
Yeah.
And so is this one. But when you get here, maybe it's too hard to see, but there's a slight inclination. It makes it a bit more difficult to thread the wire, but not that bad on centrals and laterals. But now, if you didn't have the arch wire in, it would overdo the tooth. But the arch wire's in there, remember? Just like with the sidewinder spring. If you put a sidewinder spring on a patient with an undersized arch wire, like a 19 by 26, what'll happen? The tooth will over upright. That's what would happen here. If I put a 19 by 26 wire in, the centrals and laterals would overtip. Right? You understand? Is it
Yeah.
getting a little clearer now?
Yes.
Okay. Now you know what the next question is? Why don't you do that on the cuspids and bives too? And my answer is, we didn't think we could get away with it on those teeth because they're tipped more, and we wouldn't be able to thread the wiring. But we might be wrong. And after a few years, we may just go ahead and make them all overactive, or whatever the word would be. Okay? All right. Now here comes the answer to one of your questions. We take a preformed nickel titanium wire, usually 12 thousandths in the beginning. Could be larger if the tipping's not too much. Cut it to length using a model or something ahead of time. Now what you'll normally do is you'll get about to this point so that both of the ends are securely through the centrals, and then you'll just pick on one side and take it back, and then go on the other side. But this illustration does them both at the same time. Gets to a certain point, and you get a little thing like that, and then it just does a flip back, just like that. I gave this presentation last week in Galveston, and of course somebody said, well, why don't you use a straight piece of nickel titanium wire? Why not? I think it would work personally. But you want to make sure you don't send the patient home without the heavy wire over. So that might be a reason not to do that. But these are things that we'll find as we get along. See, this person was thinking dollars and cents. I guess a straight piece is cheaper than a freeform, right? Yeah. Okay, you see what we just did? We went from there to there. That's what we were just talking about. Don't forget to put the heavy wire on. Okay. Now these are the advantages of uprighting wires as we see them at this point. Increased patient comfort and compliance. You know, compliance is a big thing out in orthodontic offices now. Compliance, compliance, compliance. Well, comfort is because they don't have the little springs and arms. It's not on the, it doesn't add to the profile height of the bracket. And compliance is because they can't pick the springs off. Yeah, if you had springs and no
Yes,
springs?
yes.
It's
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't pick them off, though.
Okay, positive rotational control. This is a problem we've had with tip-edge and the sidewinder springs. The springs, the invisible springs, will fall inside the arch wire, and the tooth will rotate. It's just a fact of life. We've learned to live with it, but you don't have to live with it anymore because this little wire through the deep tunnel controls rotations. And this is a big one, of course. Impossible to apply the wrong force. You can't put the wrong spring on or in the wrong direction. So you can turn this assembly of stage 3 over to your assistants with peace of mind. That's another plus. Peace of mind is a big one with this. And you don't have to worry. You know that everything the patient walks out, every tooth is uprighting in the right direction. All teeth receive uprighting forces. No teeth are overlooked or left behind. And this is a big problem teaching students, even in your own practice. You tend to forget the little lateral incisors. And if you don't remember, what do I mean forget the lateral incisors? When you open the bite, the roots of the lateral incisors tend to move toward the midline. So they're leaning, they're tipped distally. And most people, when they go into stage 3, they're looking at their cuspids and their bicuspids, and they're putting springs on those, and the lowly lateral incisors don't get any help. Then you want to take the appliances off. Oh, you take a Panorex x-ray, you look, and the lateral incisors are like this. This is my experience at St. Louis University. The students have shown me this, like yesterday. Oh, I said, doctor, you forgot to put springs on the lower lateral incisors. Oh, he says, okay, I'll put some on today and we'll take them off next time. That's crazy. Because any little bit of movement we get in 6 weeks, if you take them off, it's going to go back. So this is something Dr. Begg taught us years ago. You got to overcorrect early as possible and hold it as long as you can. And that's the secret to post-treatment stability of the lower incisors, so they won't crowd. But now with this uprighting wire, and that was something somebody said to me at the course a few weeks ago. His complaint was, it wasn't really a complaint, he was trying to think of, what's wrong with this. This is one of the, especially those that are teaching the tip-edge technique, they got a zillion slides, and they're all of a sudden they're out of date. It is a problem. But he said, gee, you would be uprighting teeth that don't need it. Yeah, that's what he was saying. You'd be uprighting teeth that don't need uprighting. That's how I got onto the lateral incisors with him. You don't know they need uprighting, but you'll be uprighting. That'd be a true statement. That's what happens. Plus, some teeth need torque, like bicuspids may need torque, but you don't realize it. With this, everything gets what they need. You can't forget a tooth. Less expense and less inventory. No need to remove the uprighting wires to modify the main wires. Many times, I would say almost on every patient, there'll come a time when you're monitoring the patient during stage 3 while the teeth are torquing and upright. And you'll see the molars need to be rotated one way or another. Or maybe your arch form's not just right in the front. Well, what do we have to do now? We have to take all those little springs off. We don't have to do that now. All we got to do is take off those elastomeric ligatures. Or maybe you didn't even have them on. Take the arch wires out, modify them, put them back in. So that's a big plus. Plus, plus, plus. Forces from the auxiliary wire deflection are also applied to adjacent teeth. Now this, I think, is maybe why things are going as fast or faster. Because now we put a sidewinder spring in, we grab it with a pair of pliers, and we lift it up. And it's a heavy push, and hook it on the arch wire. So that's a reciprocal force. What's it doing for us? Absolutely nothing. It's just pulling down on the arch wire. But with the uprighting wire, where does that force go? Hey, it goes to the next tooth and helps it to help the neighbors all the way along. I think that's got something to do with why it works. Oh, I didn't get all that. More aesthetic and hygienic. Right. Much nicer without all the springs and things. Simplifies placement and removal of elastomeric ligatures. You don't have to shoot them around these springs. Everybody would agree to that. Permits transfer to any edgewise office. I think with this, you could send the patient safely to another orthodontist who's not familiar with the way we upright. And just tell them, just leave it alone. You don't have to worry about it. You can transfer it easy. Now here's the advantages of sidewinder springs. You don't have to take out the main wire to place or remove. You understand? Localized. You can just put it on one tooth. More powerful. But is this an advantage? We talk differential forces and we talk about light forces. We keep our elastics very light, 2 ounces. I mean, orthodontists who use conventional slots, they can't imagine you can move teeth and even arches with 2 ounces. But we know we can. And with our light wires, at the beginning, 16 thousandths, the forces are light on the teeth and they move quickly. We've kind of forgotten that, hey, maybe light forces upright and torque teeth more rapidly. So here we're just going to put a wire in this patient's mouth. Now, these are prototype brackets. These are not plus brackets. These are tip-edge brackets that we went in and cut the slot and put it together. So these are much more difficult to thread through because we didn't have those funnels at each edge to help guide it in. Do you have plus brackets on, or these?
No, I have those.
You have these,
Yeah,
even
and
this
it still wasn't bad, no.
Still wouldn't. I'm sorry, it's out of focus, but you can see the loop is getting smaller as the wire travels distal. There's that little thing I told you about. It's gone. Now this patient, of course, we took these just to, so we'd have something to show, but this gives you an idea about the flexing of the wire. See that? It's quite a big flex right through the canine. That's why we're a little hesitant to put the slots, the deep tunnels in at angles on canines. It might just make it too difficult. Of course, the lower arch, we've still got a round wire. We're still in what you call stage 2 down here. But we just brought this to show you this. So that's that, and we'll add, hopefully we'll add a rectangular wire. There it is. Crimpable hooks. Now this is not a spectacular case. This is just the first case we've finished here at the office with the plus brackets. It's an extraction case. We're going to take out the second premolars, upper and lower. She has an open bite, which between you and me, it's very difficult to treat an open bite and keep it shut. So we're not going to show this case because we're dynamite on that. She's also got a cross bite, which is hard to correct. We're just showing this to show some idea of the uprighting that can be achieved by these small wires. This is just what we use for our diagnosis here at the office. We add up all the numbers and it shows us that we're short 10 millimeters of space. So that's why we took out the bicuspids. Just diagnostic x-rays. Here we are off and running. There's the lightest elastics. These are 5/16 light. The lighter the better. Okay, so here we go. It's just, so we begin to see the teeth tipping back. See these teeth tipping distally. See them tipping. Now this is what's scary to straight wire people. They get all excited about seeing teeth tip, and that's one of the hurdles where you have to get over. They have to take a course. They have to look at all the models out there to see that it does work and it doesn't hurt the patient in any way. What's this for? That's just because the brackets are not bonded properly. Nothing to do with it. Now, see the rectangular wires? See the little wire in behind? See it? This one just ends right here, I think. So that's quite a bit of tipping there. So this is the x-ray taken of the patient. We just looked at that, how much the teeth are tipped. This is how it looks from the side at the start of stage 3. This is moving along. These teeth are less tipped, if you will. You can appreciate that. You can still see flexion, see it? Now, in this patient, we ended the nickel titanium wire between the premolar, between the bicuspid and the molar. Because in this patient, we took out the second bicuspids. And so, if we took the nickel titanium wire and went into the gingival tube, that would be counterproductive to the way we want to upright this tube. So we just ended it right here. Well, this just shows you we have no problem with rotations with this, above and below. So that's the end. Now she had a little what we call a class 3 growth tendency. In this kind of case, you have to kind of let the lower incisors lean back a little to cover up the discrepancy. Of course, we wanted to treat her. We didn't want to flatten her face. That's one reason we go back further, take out second bicuspids. Now this is the good part. See how those teeth are uprighted? Remember we took a tooth out of here? This tooth was leaning like that. So it's just as good as springs. We use 2 auxiliary wires. So you just use 2 wires in that case. That was the one case I think I talked to you about. Let's open it up for questions. After all that, you must have some questions.
Would it be possible to combine straight wire brackets like some doctors do and use only on cuspids?
I think it'd be difficult to thread the, in order to use the plus system, you've got to have a deep tunnel on every bracket, as I see it. Don't you? Yeah. So it's a good question, and I think there would be less reason for trying to mix things. We have to get that orthodontist and make them realize, hey, this is a pre-adjusted bracket. It's a pre-adjusted edgewise bracket, just like you can use it. Only it's pre-adjusted for start to finish. Big plus there. And you can finish like this. Bill?
You still use all those same tip-edge wires?
What tip edge wire?
Or the round, starting with the round ones, or and went in with rectangular, is that?
No, it's, the sequence of wires would normally be 16 thousandths starting wires, either 20 or 22 thousandths stage 2 wires, and then the 0215 by 0275, 22 by 28, finish. It's exactly the same. You start out with Bowflex or Australian, 16. Yeah. All the nickel titanium wires do is they just replace the sidewinder springs.
Yeah, nickel titanium is only used as an auxiliary wire.
Right, right. And remember, the orthodontist, they're still going to need their sidewinder springs because we use the sidewinder springs during stage 2. We use it for stage 2 to correct midlines. And we also have a thing we call putting on the brakes if we want to cause a molars to come forward. So don't encourage them to send their sidewinder springs back because they're going to need them and they'll fit in the plus brackets. They fit.
Was the profile height of the bracket increased
No.
with the
Good.
horizontal?
You're giving us good questions. No. That's why the tunnel and the vertical slot intersect. If they didn't, of course, you'd be adding to the height. So the height is just the same. Yep. Yes.
In some markets, tip edge is sold, on the cuspids and buys with straight edge brackets on centrals and laterals. Would you ever think putting that tunnel in the straight edge?
Not till just this moment. And it wouldn't help in any way, except it would give you a hole to stick your wire through, going through the centrals and laterals, doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
But letting it, but then why not just put a spring on your cusp? So, I don't think we'd hurry right into that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the whole concept, it works as a unit. It all has to be there together. Because, each tooth helps its neighbor, of course.
I just thought that maybe, again, looking at it from a straight wire mentality, that, they would think of it more as a straight wire appliance, maybe if they had brackets, that were not tip edge, I don't know.
No, I'm hoping we're going to get into that mentality because they're going to be able to put this nickel titanium wire through.
Right.
They love that.
Right.
They love nickel titanium. They think it's God's gift to orthodontics. But it's a terrible wire for an arch wire because it hasn't got enough strength
Right.
to open a bite or correct a cross bite. It should be just an auxiliary, and now we've found a way to use it as an auxiliary. So I think we've got the best chance we've had in years of exciting more than just the big people with this plus bracket. I'd like to know what this guy in Ohio, what turned him on? Did you talk, what made him see the light last week, 2 weeks ago? What was it? What got him here?
The shortness in treatment, the light forces, the patient, the comfort, those are the things that really attracted him.
No, I think we have to push this pre-adjusted from start to finish because that's up their alley. They like pre-adjustment, and if we can make them realize, when I pointed out to my students a couple months ago that we're going to put something on each tooth that tells that tooth which way to go, I mean, they paid attention. They couldn't imagine what that would be, how we could do that. Whew. And not only tells you which way to go, it won't let it go the wrong way. So you could just theoretically put the brackets on and wires and just put a vibrator under the chin and just vibrate them for about 6 months and the teeth would all be straight. Not yet, but something like that.
Okay, this is my very last question.
Oh,
Promise.
really?
But what about courses? I mean, you know, to attract these new orthodontists into the technique, I mean, we gotta be around the world with courses, right?
Well, we've tried to give courses, we can give a nice course here, but it's hard to get the right people to come to the course, as you know. And there is a new 5th edition of the guide. Now Parkhouse, you know, he's a great guy, get him out there. Chris,
Cool.
get the young guys out there. Now, I'm too old,
Why?
I can't lecture anymore.
Why?
You did a good job today.
I'll talk to you guys here. Okay, well, you've been a great audience, I'm way over time.